So, hello to everybody, and welcome to session one of this four-part Engineers Ireland Civil Division and Project Management Society webinar series on building information modelling for infrastructure. This series of webinars are free to attend and are eligible for CPD, and I'm delighted to see the numbers who have joined us today, including engineers from public and local authorities, consultants, contractors, and others who share an interest in BIM and the digital transformation. As this is the first in a four-webinar series, please remember to register for the next webinar, which will be held on the 4th of February. Details for that will be found on the Engineers Ireland website, and a link will be put in the webinar chat that will bring you straight to the page for registering. I'm Peter Monaghan. I'm the current Vice Chair of the Civil Division, and I'll be chairing this session. And over the next four webinars, including this one, we're going to explore the evolving landscape around BIM implementation in infrastructure and specifically within Ireland's public sector projects. As many of you probably know, the BIM mandate was issued by the Office of Government Procurement under the Capital Works Management Framework, and it requires that all public works contracts and appointments will include BIM requirements by 2028. This represents a shift for our industry, which is intended to bring greater consistency, quality, transparency, and value to Ireland's built infrastructure. It presents challenges, in particular, I think, for client organisations who must appropriately outline what BIM requirements they need for their projects and, in turn, from their suppliers. In today's session, we will focus on two pillars that underpin this transition: the public sector BIM mandate. We'll look at the intent behind the mandate, what it means for those of us working on public works projects over the coming years, and it will also include information on the resources available to assist clients, designers, contractors, and the overall supply chain around adoption and implementation. Secondly, we will look at the ISO19650 series of standards. These form the global foundation for information management in the built environment and are one of the core requirements of the mandate. Understanding these standards is essential for anyone involved in digital project delivery. The series of webinars is intended to provide a context and some practical insights to understand BIM in public sector project delivery, particularly for linear infrastructure. And in the coming sessions, we will hear from Transport Infrastructure Ireland, from contractors and consultants working at the coalface, and from specialists exploring its growing impact across the water and wastewater sectors. Today, I'm delighted to be joined by Stephen Lynham, a technical advisor at Deeper, who brings over 37 years of experience in engineering, including site operations, design, public works projects, and digital transformation. Stephen is involved in the national effort to implement BIM across Ireland's public works projects, and he will provide us with an insight into the OGP BIM mandate. We're also joined by Dr. Marcia Balpagni, an engineer and head of BIM International at Mace Consult. She is an influential voice in digital construction and is a contributor to European and international BIM standards, including the ongoing revisions of ISO 19650. Her work spans academia and industry, and we appreciate Stephen and Marcia's sharing their experience on ISO standards and information management. So thank you all for joining us for this first session. We hope you find the next hour informative and a good foundation for the coming webinars on BIM for infrastructure. And I'll now hand over to Stephen to begin today's presentations. Over to you.
Thanks, Peter. Thanks for that very informative introduction. I'm beginning to feel old now that I've 37 years at this game. I'm just going to put this into presentation mode. So I think we should be good to go there, yeah?
Yep, good to go.
Okay. Welcome everybody to this seminar. It's great to see Engineer Ireland are getting behind the BIM implementation for projects in Ireland. Although the mandate covers public works projects, the resources that we've made available to those can be used on private sector projects. So there is a learning there for everybody, and we would like to share the information we have and obviously get feedback on it. Today I'm going to talk about public sector BIM mandate, and I'm an engineer myself. I work as a technical advisor in Deeper at the moment, and we respond to most queries on construction contracts, both on the client side of things and on the contractual side of things. So just by way of introduction, public works procurement is managed by the Capital Works Management Framework, or the CWMF, as most people would know it. And it's compulsory to use the CWMF where the state contributes more than 50% of the funding for any project. Um, the mandate was introduced following a review of the public works contracts in 2014. Well, the mandate, I suppose, was a result of that review. It was a way of trying to address issues that were currently happening in contracts that were going to site. So the OGP then published a position paper in 2017, and it was a broad outline of what the government's intention was and how BIM was going to be utilised on public works projects in Ireland. On the 4th of November 21, Minister for Public Expenditure and Reform, Michael McGrath, he awarded funding for the Build Digital Alliance, which was led by TU Dublin, which has now become the Build Digital Project. And it was established in early the following year. Standards have now been imposed on CWMF projects through deeper by Minister Donoghue and Smith, and that adoption was recommended by government on the 4th of July 2023, and the BIM adoption then commenced on the 1st of January 2024. It was a 4-year plan to adopt BIM, and that was to give people time to be able to absorb and understand what requirements were going to be placed on clients, on contractors, on consultants, and on the supply chain. As I said, the requirements were introduced 1st of January 2024, and they were commenced on large-scale projects where there was already a BIM skill already existed. The whole theory behind was introducing on the large projects first was that the BIM knowledge would cascade down as the project value got smaller, and it would help people collaborate and understand what was required as the mandate was rolled out. The cost of BIM is embedded now in project budgets. So anybody dealing with public infrastructure projects, when you're making your application of funding to the government or to deeper for it, it needs to include a cost for BIM. And that cost includes both the HR, IT setup that needs to happen within clients' organizations. It also includes the cost for BIM consultancy, if that's the road that people choose to go down on. And the funding has been embedded in the multi-annual delegate capital sanction 24 to 27 for all public works projects. So anybody commencing a new projects, there is a fund stream there now available for BIM as part of your capital acquisition for the project. So where are we now? Well, we're about halfway through our BIM implementation program. As of the 1st of January this year, the contractors and supply chain and projects of greater than 10 million will now have a requirement of BIM for project delivery. Now, you must understand that for a contractor and supply chain to be required to provide BIM information in return to clients, the project must have been designed with BIM in mind in the first instance. So if the project concept, so when the project idea was initially born, if the BIM requirements weren't applicable to the project at that time, it's not likely that a contractor is going to be asked to supply BIM requirements for a project that didn't have BIM built into it from day one. And that's to ensure a consistency between the design team exchanges with the contractors in relation to returning the information that the client has asked for. So BIM is going to be rolled out on a phased basis up until January 2028. And at that point, there will be BIM requirements for every project, even projects below €1 million. And, you know, that's going to be a significant game changer moving forward. But it's a way of managing information that reduces issues on projects during the delivery phase. The impact. So I just kind of given a profile of people for last year, what we've had on the works side of things. So last year on e-tenders, there was 1,441 projects. Now those projects invariably were above, they would have been above 200,000 K. But the figures are there. You can see E-tenders was used, for 180 projects below 25,000 K, for 89 projects between 25 and 50,000. Between 50,000 and 100K, there was 155, 100K to 150, 102, and then so on and so forth. Realistically, on this chart here, we're now looking at the projects, that are at the 10 million mark. And, that's what's happened. 98 of them were advertised in e-tenders. So you can see it's going to have a significant impact on the industry moving through the next 12 to 18 months, where all of those smaller projects are now going to be brought in for BIM requirements. The projects greater than 10 million, there's 158, greater than 5 million, 98, greater than 1,340 projects, and less than 1 million. And this is our biggest cohort here. And these are the people I'm concerned about at the moment, because they don't have a plan to have implemented the BIM journey. That needs to start happening now if you're going to be working in the public sector. So this is just, I suppose, my brain dump of where BIM sits in to administration of projects for government. There are a lot of overlaps of information, and this is something that we're working on. Currently, there's 5 stages, 11 contracts, 20 model forms, arbitration rules, 8 ITTs, 4 forms of tender, 4 conditions of engagement, 4 ITTs, 6 consultancy model forms, consultancy arbitration rules, 6 SAQs. They have 19 appendices and 10 supplements, 27 guidance notes, which is about 3,500 pages of guidance, and 1 glossary. So you can see from this slide here that public works procurement is complex, even in its most simplest form. Now, we have plans to try and reduce this complexity by developing digital tools to help you migrate through all the stages of the CWMF. And myself there, I've broken this down in, I'm looking to put in a stage 0, which deals with the financial side and the capital appraisal piece, and also then the stage 6, which is the in-use part. So all the bits about carbon and carbon life cycle for a building, how it's going to be used, what the performance of the building is, does it match what the initial design intent was? These are things that BIM will allow clients to be able to assess and review, and it will help them make better informed decisions at project design stage. So CWMF implementation strategy. So this imposes standards on the CWMF, and there's 2 aspects to the implementation strategy. Aspect 1 is imposing mandatory standards for information across all stages of the life cycle of a project. And that includes right from concept, so how the project is financed initially, right through to end of life. And it's absolutely essential that training for your staff is required. This has to be client driven, because there's no point in the client getting information back from design teams who will be doing a great job, and contractors who are also doing a great job, and the client not using that information that's being returned to them to help them understand how they can best use the data from their project to inform them of future projects. They need a training plan, and this is part of an organizational information requirements. Again, it's client driven. So as people that are working as professionals in the industry, you should be looking for a copy of an organization's information requirements in order to be able to assess and price what you're being asked to do by the client. And aspect 2 is supporting public bodies in the adoption of BIM. We have BIM templates available on the Build Digital platform. We've also had some master classes in BIM to help people that are in the public sector to understand the requirements on a client in relation to BIM implementation. And Build Digital have also, they've 3 webinars available up on their website. They've been recorded, so they're free to watch, on information management and how it works. And also we have an active public sector BIM group. This group is open to all public servants, public or civil servants, to join. It's free of charge. We meet a couple of times a year and we would discuss issues that are arising in the sector. We also have a specific group for local authorities. So members or engineers that are working in local authorities should get in contact with the LGMA and they'll put them in touch with the local authority BIM group. So aspect one, imposing the standards. What does it mean? ISO 19650 is a series of standards that's been adopted by CWMF on a phased basis, and it's to impose standards on how information is delivered across the life cycle of a project for public sector projects. The second part of the mandate is Uniclass 2015. It's now just called Uniclass. It's run by the NBS in the UK. This is a coding system that applies to all construction projects, be it linear or buildings. And basically what this information exchange is designed to do, it's designed to codify every element of a project so that no matter whether you're an engineer, an architect, quantity surveyor, or a contractor, the same coding system references the same pieces of information within the digital model. So it means that cross-referencing, being able to map it to build quantities, being able to match it to engineering specifications, being able to match it to architectural specifications. There's a uniform Uniclass coding system that helps to deliver that. And then IFC is the exchange information. So if you're exchanging data sets or information and 3D models or things like that, the IFC, the Industry Foundation class, is the sharing mechanism that you should use. And then we have the ICMS, which is the International Cost Management Standards. This is a global cost standard. I suppose is really used for classification of cost centers, and it covers every type of projects. There's 19 possible types of project that you could have. I think 2 of them are buildings, and the other 17 relate to linear infrastructure. And depending on whether it's a road, or whether it's an airport runway, or whether it's a bridge or underground works, the quantity surveyors will be on top of that and be able to classify which cost management system must be used. This is a requirement on all cost proposals that have to come in to public service projects. So if you are in a position where you're submitting cost proposals, it needs to conform with ICMS. And part 5 of it is there's an onus on the clients to set minimum project information requirements for all stages of the CWMF. So where a CWMF project is to be used, there are minimum requirements that are required for information delivery using CWMF. And then the appointing party or the contracting authority or the client must specify the level of BIM required for each project, and it needs to be specified for each stage of the project. So when the likes of engineers or architects or quantity surveyors are submitting a cost proposal for their consultancy service, they're absolutely clear of what BIM requirements are needed at each stage of the project, so their price reflects that. And just a quick overview of ISO. ISO is it's a standard adopted into the CWMF on a phased basis, and it imposes standards on information sharing for project delivery across the public sector. Uniclass is made up of a set of tables that can be used in different parts of the construction industry and in various ways. So it can be used to coordinate information between various stakeholders. And IFC is a standardized digital description of the built asset industry. It's open, so it's free of charge. It's an international standards and promotes vendor neutral and usable capabilities across a wide range of hardware devices, service platforms, interfaces. Really what this means is that irrespective of the software program you're using to design, it should be IFC readable. So you should be able to import models from somebody else if you need to run clash detection. That type of information is available there. It's also used on the FM side to connect up with building management systems. And the ICMS, again, as I said, They are the principles of international cost standards to set out how to classify, measure, record, analyze, present, and compare construction project life cycle costs and carbon. That is probably the biggest piece and the reason why ICMS was brought in. It's to measure what the carbon for buildings is in a structured and logical format. So we'll associate carbon with your building elements. Aspect two is supporting local authorities or public bodies in the adoption of BIM. As I've said already, we've ran a series of master classes on this. It's available on the One Learning portal. If you're a public servant and have access to the training module in there, they're available there. I am hoping to make them available to the wider public, but I'm running into difficulties with my own IT system in relation to that. But that's something I hope to make clear to everybody or available to everybody in the near future. Contract amendments and the protocols, that's under consideration by us. We're looking at developing a protocol for BIM use in Ireland. Currently, the UK BIM framework one is the one that's being used here. I have some concerns about intellectual property rights, but we have a legal team looking at that at the moment, and hopefully within the next couple of months we will have our own BIM protocol for use on projects in Ireland. And again, that protocol will be available for public and private sector use. Developing minimum standards for pre-qualification. We've got on board with Build Digital and the NSAI, and the NSAI now have a compliance certification for ISO 19650, that contractors and consultants can go and have their companies tested against those and certified if they meet the test requirements. We also have available on the Build Digital website templates for pre-contract BIM execution plans, for post-contract execution plans. There are a lot of other templates and guidelines available on that Build Digital platform, and they're constantly being updated. So we want to get feedback from people as to how well they're working, and if they're difficult to use, what potential ways we could make them easier to use, because you do really need an information manager on board with you to understand the information that's collated in these. And the templates, other templates that we've templates for EIRs, OIRs, AIMs, project information models. I'll leave you be to go to the Build Digital project website and scroll through the information that's available there. And there's also a training module on the Build Digital website, and it lists, I think, over 300 different types of courses that people can do depending on whether they're working full-time or part-time, or whether they just need to know a little bit about BIM, or whether they need to know about BIM detailing. There is a huge array of courses available, and that information, they're all available on the Build Digital website. There's the link. It's the education and training inventory, and it's also supported by DASB. That's the Digital Academy for Sustainable Built Environment. They run a lot of courses too, and they also run a lot of seminars as well, which are free to attend. I would suggest that people link up with those guys, and you will get some really good tips and information. And then the certification of BIM capability, as I said, that's through NSAI. They're currently offering certification to 19650 series of standards. I think it's part 2 at the moment that they are offering certification on. But you can get in touch with them directly on their website and make contact with them, and they will be able to help you out. And just to give an overview of how we kind of structure and share our information, we have relationships with Engineers Ireland, RIAI, Construct Innovate, ACEI, Chartered Surveyors of Ireland, Construction Industry Federation, and Enterprise Ireland in relation to BIM implementation. So we've looked at this as a holistic goal for the entire construction industry in the country, and not just public works procurement. We want to let you know that the information that we produce for public works projects can be used in private sector projects. And it's up to you then to edit what you want in it. The information and templates and the guidance is all there for you to navigate through. So I kind of lead this at a national level. And I have direct links then to Build Digital and NSAI. And between the three of us, I suppose we develop webinars. We look at what the industry is asking for in relation to templates or guidance, and we try and develop those documents and make them available on the Build Digital platform. We wanted to have one platform where we could share all this information rather than people having to run around the place. And then under those subgroups, I have a public sector BIM group. There's about 144 active members in that. There's over 250 on the list. There's about 144 active members. And then we also have had an advanced level group in that. So we have some public bodies who are far further advanced in their BIM implementation than others. And the reason we have two separate groups is that we're not overlapping on the works or tasks we're trying to do. And it also provides a base for people to be able to share information in relation to what has already been done. So we're not reinventing the wheel every time. And then on the other side, we have NSAI and Build Digital. They liaise with a private sector BIM group, and they also take their templates and their guidance to the private sector, and private sector come back and comment on them. So there is I suppose, an evolution of sharing information between everybody, so we can get the most up-to-date information on the Build Digital platform with best practice always in mind. I suppose just in relation to the NSAI have published two standard packs at a discounted rate for people who want to get into BIM. So initially, Pack A is really for clients and possibly consultants who are going to get into BIM and try and understand it. They've reduced the cost of the price of this bundle to 241 from 329. And that's a list of the standards there that you will get in Bundle A. And the same with Bundle B. Once you've got your initial BIM set up within your organization and now you want to start implementing it, you need to look at the Pack B. And you need to have a copy of that information in order to have BIM certification. So you need to have purchased those standards. And again, as I said, they have an accreditation program for consultants and contractors for BIM certification. This is something that will become a minimum requirement in public works procurement after 2028. We do understand that people need time to get these things in place. So if you have the BIM certification, it means that it's something that you're not going to fail on an SAQ, suitability assessment questionnaire, if you're interested in working on in the public sector. And again, just very quickly here, the Build Digital Annual Survey is up online on their website. I would suggest that anybody that is interested in BIM log on to their website and complete that project or complete that survey. The reason being is when we get feedback from the industry, we can have actions on what's actually needed, and it helps us focus in on what we need to deliver for the industry in the short term. They're also running a series of webinars, one starting tomorrow. The registration for that is still open, and it's on the Build Digital platform or the link below on this. And the first seminar they're running on is why information managers is now a strategic priority. Second one is what good adoption looks like in practice. And the third webinar they're running is how to enable your strategy with the right technologies. And again, and lastly, this is a project that I've been working on for digitalization of the SAQ. And very quickly, I'm trying to reduce the time it takes to complete this document for digital procurement. It's fully digital online portal. It's client passport driven, so you only have to enter your information once when you're placing a bid. It's for tender bidder's passport with the same information in it. So you put your information in, and when you're bidding on a public works project, it will retain it and upload it on any of your bids. It'll learn from previous projects. It's the enter only one principle based on submission validation, can be used for all public works projects, and it will form the plan to digitalize the entire CWMF documentation suite. It will also help with automatic evaluation. So if you're trying to upload something that you're not being asked for, it will say to you, not required. Or if you're missing something on a submission, it will tell you that your submission is not complete, and it'll bring you back to what you're missing. And again, guys, that's my spin on BIM for public works projects. Thank you very much for listening. And if you have any questions, I will endeavour to do the best I can to answer us.
Thank you
So
very
thank
much,
you.
Stephen. Thank you very much. And just, I should have said maybe earlier, there is a Q&A function in the webinar in Zoom. So any questions, some people have already been posting questions, but if you have any questions, please put them in there, and we'll endeavour to answer as many as we can at the end of the presentations. So now I'd like to hand over to Marcia for her presentation.
Okay, thank you. I think that you need to stop sharing and then I can.
Yeah, there you go.
Perfect, thank you. Yeah, okay, now you should be able to see my screen. Again, nice to meet you, everyone, and thank you for the invitation. I work for Mace Consult, as been said. We are a consulting company. Also, we are present in Ireland. We have more than 200 people, and we deliver different kind of services, including project management, PMO, cost consultant, advisory, and also digital. And I've been asked to give you an overview of the ISO 19650 that, as you heard, is one of the core requirements of the mandate. And I will start explaining what is BIM and information management, the benefits of using BIM, especially for the linear infrastructure projects, and then an overview of the series of the ISO 19650, and then some references. I think that most of them has been introduced already by Steve, so also for you then to see them again, because they're very important for you for starting to work, or also to further develop what you're doing in your organizations. What is BIM? So actually, in the industry, there's been different definition. So it seems that several people, they have their own definition of BIM, but actually there is an international definition that is also included in the Part 1 of the ISO 19650. So is the use of a shared digital representation of the built asset to facilitate the design, construction, operation processes to form a reliable basis for decision. And when we speak about built asset, of course, include also buildings, but also bridges, roads, and also process plants. So when we speak about BIM, is really using the digital representation. So there is an element of 3D modeling, but it's not just about the 3D, it's a data rich, okay? It's not just the geometry. We have information that are associated with our geometry, also documents. As we will see, they live in a shared environment, in a common data environment. And it's not just about the design part, but it's very key to use information management using BIM, and is the reason why the standard ISO 19650 has been created, because it's really to use an approach of information management when we adopt BIM. And so regarding the sort of benefits, I would like to share something about my the beginning of my career when I started more than 15 years ago. It was the very first project that I was working, and I wanted to then implement BIM in that project. So the first thing that you do, you ask for the latest version of the information, in that case of the design of that particular project, and the answer that I was given by the engineers, by the designer, it was like, oh yes, it is saving my own computer, okay, and I will send you by email. And we will comment on this, okay? Is a behavior, okay, on how we share information, how we manage information. And then I ask, okay, how do you know that is the latest one? You know, how do you know that the other people that are working on the other disciplines are also working on the latest version? And I was received the answer, oh yes, don't worry, I save it like project final version 12, whatever, my name underscore copy of copy of copy of copy. As you can see, this is not just about BIM. It's about how we create information, how we exchange information between us, okay? And everyone is responsible of information management. That is a key message that I would like you that you are listening today. You know, if you are a civil engineer, if you are a project manager, if you are, you know, whatever, you know, role do you have in the project, everyone is responsible of creating information, and it's really key that you understand at least the concept and the basics of good information management, because are key for the success of any project. As you can imagine, the version that I received was not the final, and actually what I discovered is that not everyone was working on the latest version, or at least on the same version. So I found out that people that were working on the MEP were not working on the same version of the architectural and engineering. So finding, for example, a sink in a door, that was the very beginning of my experience. So be able to find those coordination issue, of course, is one of the main benefits, let's say, of BIM, but of course is not the only one, okay? There are several benefits on implementing information management and BIM in a project or in a program. Is really to improve the efficiency and the need to rework, because you don't find the latest information. People are not working on the let's say on the same page between different teams. Also improve the sort of understanding of the project, because we have the visualization part, so really helps in the communication across different stakeholders. And also in particular with the linear project, the integration with the geospatial elements, so be able also to position our project within the sort of our lens, okay? Enhance the sort of project outcomes, improve the decision making, because if I have more confidence on the state of the progress of my project, and we will see later of what is from information has been submitted by who, when, that is help me to have a better control of the project. So and then reduces also cost and time. It has been estimated, there are also studies in the industry that for every euro that we invest on this, we have a cost saving of between 5 and 6. So yeah, so that is also in improvement on the cost and the time. And also because we have better control also on the material, we can reduce the sort of carbon and the waste management for our project. Let's have a look on the ISO 19650. First of all, is important, as also has been mentioned before, that is not just one standard. Okay, people think about ISO 19650 is just one standard. No, it's a series of standard of information management using BIM. So there are at the moment 6 different parts that has been published. Part 1 is concepts and principles, is where you find the different terms, concept that then you will then further develop in the other parts. Okay, so it's really a starting point for you to understand the key concept related to this topic. Then we have a part 2 and 3. So at the moment, part 2 is more focusing on the delivery. So let's say design and construction. And part 3 is what is happening after the construction and the handover. So more on the operation and maintenance. So if you are working more on the operational phase, part 3 is where to go. If you are more working on the design and construction, part 2 is where you can find the guidance on how to implement information management for your project, okay? And then we have a part 4 that is on the information exchange between different parties. Part 5 is very important because is a link with the information security, cybersecurity standard and our sector. So is how to implement information management taking into account a security-minded approach. And this should be done for every project, not just for projects that they have a high security profile, but really to embed it in our let's say for each project to be able then to first identify if you need any procedures and resources and then documented processes and action on managing information in a secure way. So very important, part 5 as well. And then the latest part that is being published last year is on part 6, that is on health and safety. So how we make sure that health and safety is a core of the way that we deliver and manage information. Okay. And what I decided to do to give you an overview is on part 2. Okay, so on the second part, more related to the design and construction. And I will go a little bit fast because just as an overview. And of course, if you have a question, I can go back to each of the different activities. So basically, for each appointment, okay, that can be contractual or not, but for public sector, it will be a contract. So for each contract, there should be different activities to be followed. The first one is called assessment and need. The second is the invitation to tender, the tender response, the appointment, the mobilization, the collaborative production of the information model delivery, and the project closeout. Okay. For each appointment, for each contract, you should go through those different activities. Okay. And there are different steps and activities that based on the different stage, okay, the client or the consultant or contractor needs to do, or together with their supply chain. The first one, assessment and need, is really focused on the client responsibilities. We will see them very quickly. So the client needed to appoint someone that is responsible for information management. So you cannot just delegate everything to the supply chain. You need to have someone embedded in the client team that is responsible for information management. Okay. The standard also mentioned that there is the possibility to appoint a third party, but that of course is not the best solution and the advised one. Okay. Then the client needs to establish the project information requirements. So defining the different classification, in the project requirements, define the project scope, the type of procurement, the decision, that sort of purpose of the project. Then we have the definition of the when we would like the information to be exchanged. So they are called the information delivery milestone. That most of the case they will align with the project milestone, but maybe we want also to introduce more points where we would like to receive information, to exchange information with the delivery team. So with the, let's say, architects, engineers, and contractor and so on. So the clients also needed to set up the information standard. So the information standard is everything related to the classification, naming convention, but also layout, branding. And it was mentioned before, the Uniclass. Uniclass is part of the information standard. So is to be very explicit of which standard we would like to use. And then if there is any requirements on how we would like information to be produced, also if there is any, let's say, as is information, that is called reference information and shared resources, or any templates that we would like the delivery team to be used later on. Okay, the client needs to do this exercise to prepare all this information. And then also the client's responsibility to create a accommodative environment. So a place where the information should be created, exchanged, and archive. Also, the standard mentioned that it is possible also to delegate the responsibility, but again, similar to what I said before, this is not a ideal scenario that the standard mentioned. Okay, and anyway, the client needs to at least to define the sort of functional and non-functional requirements. And finally, as also Steve mentioned, there is a need to create a legal document that is called Project Information Protocol to then identify the different legal requirements regarding information management. Then again, there is another step for the invitation to tender that again is a client responsibility to lead and create the information requirements called the exchange information requirements for that particular appointment, and then assemble all the different share resources, and then to prepare the sort of tender response requirements and the evaluation criteria in order then to select the best winner. Okay, and then compile all the information to tender in order to issue the sort of tender. In the next one, we have the tender response. So in this case, we have the consultant, the main contractor, that they needed to create different, let's say, deliverables. So basically, as you can see, is the first step, they needed to nominate, again, someone in their team that is responsible for information management. They needed to create a document that they call pre-appointment BIM execution plan. They need also to provide evidences of their capability and capacity, and in doing so, to do that with their supplier, with the subcontractors, okay? And then also then to develop a mobilization plan, okay? If they're going to win the project, how they're going to mobilize the people and the technology in order to deliver that particular project. And also to create a risk register, in particular, focus on information management, and then put all this information together in order to issue their tender. Then we move to the next step, that is the appointment. So the client evaluate different offers and then select the one that will be the one for the winner. And then in this case, the main contractor, the consultant, needs to confirm what is included in the document BIM execution plan, create a responsibility matrix. They need also to create the information requirements for the supply chain. So there's a responsibility to create requirements for the suppliers, and also to create a document that is very important, a master information delivery plan. So basically, it's the list of all the deliverables they're going then to provide to the clients. And in doing so, they needed to collect the different disciplines, the deliverables from the different disciplines that are called task information delivery plans. Okay, and then complete all the different documents of the appointment. We move then to the mobilization part. As I said, we need to mobilize resources and technology. In doing so, we need to test those with the supply chain and with the client to make sure that we can work as a team, and then also to test the different methodology, because if the client, for example, asks you to export information in a certain way here, or to upload the information in their system, okay, this is the opportunity to test, okay. And then we have the collaborative production of information. So the team start creating information and doing their internal quality assurance. When we speak about information model, something very important when you will read the ISO 19650, information model means all the information of the project, not just the 3D. That is a big mistake, a misconception, okay? Information model is everything, is drawings, photo, minutes, calculation report, everything, because as I said at the beginning, everyone is creating information. So the ISO 19650 is not just for BIM expert, okay? It's for everyone, as has been said before. So the information is created, is checked, and then shared with the consultant, the lead consultant, the main contractor for review. They're going to, let's say, reject, or then, let's say, allow the information to move to the next stage. So then the information is then ready to be published, so to be sent to the client, that also they have responsibility to then review and accept all the information of the project, okay? You can see here, review and accept the information model. So this doesn't mean just accept the 3D model. No, accept all the information of that project. It can be, as I said, the program of the project. It can be a sort of, as I said, a calculation, everything. Okay. And finally, is the project closeout, where the client is responsible of archiving all the information and then capture the lesson learned together with the main consultant and the contractor. Coming back to the benefits, really, I mentioned before the reduce the work, the better outcome, and so on. Here is an example of what we develop for project. Really, be able to manage information in a accommodative environment in a structured way, help us to understand that the information that are required by the client has been submitted when, okay, and also to have conversation of which information is missing and why. So really to have a better control of the project, and really not just to say, oh, I'm 40% in the advancement of my project, but really to be specific of what is needed and what instead has been submitted, and validate and verify the work that is provided. So yeah, you can see here, and of course, you can create any kind of dashboard, but the work that should be done is a front end in having clear information requirements at the beginning. So just in that case, then you can then have a proper information management through your project that is managed and controlled. I will finish my presentation so we have time for Q&A regarding references. As been mentioned, there is the National Standard Authority of Ireland. You also saw the name of David Lemon that is also leading the sort of BIM work. You can find the international standard available, as been mentioned, also the certification process. So you can find all the information that you want in the website if you want to know more about this topic. Also, has been mentioned the work that Robert Moore is leading on Build Digital. You can find here in the QR code the webinars that has been presented before, and also the annual survey that is really important to collect your expertise, as Steve was mentioned before. And also in the website you can find the resources that been developed by the team that are a good starting point for you and your teams. And finally, I want to mention also Building Smart UK and Ireland, that is also part of NEMA. I'm ambassador of NEMA. In the website, you can find more information on this if you go on the top. And the activities that Build Smart is leading. As been mentioned, IFC is one of the pillar of the requirements. Probably remember this icon from the previous presentation. IFC is the Industry Foundation class is one of the main standard that is produced by Build Smart. So really recommend also to all of you to have a look to this website to find more information on this topic. And that's all. Thank you very much for your attention.
Ireland. We had quite a few people on the call, over 500. And if anything, what came through to me was that if you haven't started planning, you need to start now. There's no time to waste. There are resources available. Marcia and Stephen have both given a lot of direction there on where information can be found. And of course, there's the next 3 webinars in the series, which hopefully will help build on the information that's been provided here today. So I'd like to thank Marcia and Stephen for their wonderful presentations and agreeing to come on and give it to the audience here. And before I close, I'd just like to make a special mention for Jancy, who's been silent in the background there, but who has been the key driver in the civil division behind organising these webinars. And without her hard work, we wouldn't actually be able to host these. So thank you, Jancy.